Hi, my name is Cody. I'm a software engineer here in San Francisco, and in this video series we are rebuilding Lovable using LangGraph. Currently we have a very basic version of our application where we can give it instructions to create a basic page, and it will write the code. So let's say please create a project that is simple and says hello world. In the last video we actually made it so that the chatbot can respond to the user by asking a question. But I'm going to show you some of the limitations of doing that. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. So we have our starting point hello world page for the video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, what is your name? Let's go ahead and send this in. And you see that it says, oh, I'm ChatGPT, I'm your AI system. And that's all great, but our current naive implementation, if we refresh the page, look at this. Hi, I'm ChatGPT, your AI system. So the problem with our current implementation is that the large language model by default always writes the changes, it always writes its response to our page.html file. And this isn't going to work. So we had a very basic prompt change that allowed us to make it so that it's a little bit smarter, but in a ways it's still really, really dumb. So what we need to do is we actually need to break this into a couple of different distinct large language model calls, so that in our actual application, we can have an if-else statement so that we don't always by default write the AI response to the page. We only write the content from the LLM's output to the page in certain situations. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. We're going to do this in a very naive way, just to, we're thinking about things from first principles. And in the code, what we could do is we could have a separate large language model prompt that basically tells the large language model that it needs to make a decision. And then we can have the large language model output that decision. Usually the best way to get started is to actually start in the LangSmith playground. So let's go ahead and open up our LangSmith playground. Let's create a brand new prompt. And we're going to call this one, route user, or we'll call this one determine user intent. Make this public, save it into Llama-bot. Okay. And in here, we're just going to instruct the large language model and basically give it the full context that it needs in its system prompt so that it understands what its job is. So we're going to say you, so this is usually what I do. I'll say you are an if-else statement. You return only two options. Respond naturally or write code. You will receive a user's message, and depending on what they are asking, you will decide whether we need to just respond to the user naturally, such as if the user is asking a question, making a generic statement, or just trying to engage in some banter. Or you will decide if the user is instructing you to make changes to their project that would require code changes. If you're not sure, respond with respond naturally, asking for clarification from the user. Here is the user's message. And we'll come here, we'll input this as user input. Actually, we want this to be user message to stay consistent with the other prompt. Let's go ahead and commit this. Okay, excellent. Now let's go ahead and test this. Let's say, please make my page be a game of chess, a two-player chess. Right, let's go ahead and hit start. We'll run this and we'll just kind of test. And right here you can see that the large language model followed our instructions very closely and it responded with right code. Let's test this one more time. Let's say, what are your capabilities? Hit start. And then it says respond naturally. So from here, let's open up our Fast API project here. And what we're going to do is when we get this initial message coming in to the chatbot, what we're going to do is we pull the existing HTML content and then we create this first prompt. But we're actually going to make a new step. figure out the user's intent, and then based on their response, call the appropriate function. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say prompt equals client.pullPrompt. Pull prompt. Let's do our, what was it? It was llama-bot slash, let's open up this. Okay, so we have our commitment. Let's pull up, here it is, llama-bot slash determine user intent. Go ahead and paste this in. Okay, we'll say prompt value equals prompt.invoke. Okay, user intent equals prompt value dot content. You can see cursor's already starting to think ahead for us, saying if, it's saying if user intent equals add new item. So it's kind of hallucinating here, right? But it is useful, so I'm just going to hit tab to keep it. And in this case, the user intent is going to be one of two things. It's going to be either respond naturally, right? Or it's going to be write code, right? And if it's write code, then we can kind of do the existing thing that we were doing previously. And we can just kind of come up here and hit tab. Okay. If it's respond naturally, then we should make a new prompt instructing the chatbot to just respond naturally. In fact, I think the way that we actually did this is that this simple generate HTML prompt llama-bot is kind of dual purpose right now. It's a little bit misnamed, and we'll change this in the future. But I'm going to go ahead and just paste this in, simple generate HTML prompt. If you're following along in the video series, this should make sense. But let's go ahead and just, either way, the main thing that we're trying to change is if the user intent is to respond naturally, then it will skip all this additional step to basically of writing the output back to the actual page.html. There's a couple steps we're missing though. So we need to get the AI response by invoking the large language model, and then either way we need to return the JSON response. So I'm just going to just paste that in like that. Cool. Let's go ahead and test this, see if it works. Let's refresh this. I'm going to say, can you hear me? Oh, it threw an error. Let's see what it's not happy about. Prompt value dot content. Chat prompt value object has no attribute content. Okay, let's look at this. Now, something that I do sometimes when I'm lazy is I'll just copy out the server error and I'll throw it right into cursor and just you know, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Very lazy, but sometimes it can get you there a lot faster. Let's go ahead and just throw it in there, see what cursor says. We're trying to access .content directly on the prompt value. We need to invoke the LLM with the prompt and then access the content. Nice. Okay, it just made some changes. Let's go ahead and just try it. This is kind of the fun part of vibe coding, right? Say, can you hear me? Didn't throw an error. There we go. I don't have ears, but I can hear you. Now let's refresh the page, see if it actually wrote the HTML content. It did. Now we want to try and debug and see what happened. Why did it do that? And one of the things that would be really nice to know is, did it hit our new prompt? And if it did, what was the output of that new prompt? And this is where LangSmith comes in clutch. Let's go ahead and open up LangSmith. Let's go home. Let's go to llama-bot open source. Let's look at our latest change here. If you see here, okay, now if you look here, okay, so you can see here, can you hear me? Chat prompt template, and you see in here, I actually did respond with respond naturally. So let's see here though. If user intent equals respond naturally, so there's a little bit of debugging that we'll have to do. It looks like it might have, good example of cursor doing things that it shouldn't have. Like if we look at this change, look at this. This is funny. This is one of the problems with vibe coding, right? If you're not like watching, paying attention. It actually added in the page. We didn't want it to write the response to the HTML, but it did it anyways. Processing time, I don't know why it. Okay, that's fine. So let's remove that. Let's go ahead and try one more time after removing that code. let's go ahead and say, you know, what's 5 times 5? And then we'll see it should respond with respond naturally up here. So here's the first input, what's 5 times 5? The output here should respond, yep, there it is, respond naturally. Okay. And then it sends it to the next prompt, what is 5 times 5? Let's refresh this. Sends it to the, so it responded naturally. Let's go ahead and refresh this. What's 5 times 5? Then it gives us a message, 5 times 5 is equal. Okay, great. Let's come over here. Great, so it responded with this. Let's refresh and see if it wrote the page HTML. It did not, right? So if you notice, it didn't change. So let's make this example a little more concrete. Let's say, please create a cool platform scroller game where I can jump up and down on platforms using arrow keys. Okay, so we're going to try a write code decision just to see if it will make the right decision here. So here it's sending it into the LLM. You can see it, you are an if-else statement. This is the prompt we made, and then the output is write code. Excellent. So it should make that decision. It's still thinking. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay, and now it is putting it in with the other prompt. Okay, you see it's starting to write the output out. Let's go ahead and go back here. Okay, and it just did this. Let's go ahead and refresh. And look at this. Game doesn't actually work too well, but you can see it. You know, it does something that's better. Let's just refresh this. Okay, so now we can see, you know, what is this game all about? So now this should trigger the respond naturally side of things, so it shouldn't like write the response to the web page. Let's go ahead and refresh just to confirm that. And there you go. Now we have a little bit of a better version. It's a little bit closer to Lovable. It's smart enough now to know not to write code to the file system if the user is just asking a simple question. But there's still a lot of work to do. This scroller game is not, one, it doesn't work very well, so we'll need to debug it and try to fix it. And then two, it actually wasn't super well designed either. So we're going to start adding a little bit more deeper agentic type reasoning and thinking. And what you'll see is as we do this, the if-else statements where we kind of branch out into different parts will soon start to get a little bit annoying and overwhelming to work with. But we'll let that process naturally unfold as we continue with this project. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.